Halloween finds its origins in Celtic festivals, and in a particular Celtic festival called the Feast of Samhain. Samhain was Lord of the Dead, and when it came to the end of harvest and came to the end of October and nights were getting darker, it was thought that the Lord of the Dead, Samhain, was taking over, and so they would have a festival to try to ward off the Lord of the Dead, to keep the spirits calm, and so there would be bonfires lit and so forth. And most of the Celtic peoples decided that they would carve things and put lights in them, so that would also help to ward off the darkness at night. The Celtic peoples used turnips, but when the Irish people came to the United States and the pumpkin was here, they turned from turnips to pumpkins, and that's how we get the carved pumpkin. It's really, again, a Celtic tradition. Where did it get the name Halloween? Halloween means hallowed evening, and it's the evening before the Feast of All Saints, so October 31st. And the church, throughout much of its history, used to take a look at what pagan festivals were around, and would then put Christian festivals around the same time in order to, help the Christians blend in, so to speak. This was true in Roman times as well. And so what they did was they decided that, October 31st would be the hallowed evening before All Saints' Day. Then there would be All Saints' Day and then All Souls' Day, a trilogy, because the Feast of Samhain also was a trilogy, 3 days. It also recalled the 3 days before Christ resurrected, and it recalled the Trinity, so it was perfect. The church thought this was perfect. They started the tradition that what would happen is you would go around and dressed up like saints and put costumes on and dressed up like saints, and that these would ward off any kind of evil spirits or any kind of wandering souls that might be a danger. And the fact too that there were always treats given out so that there would be no bad things that would happen is also the origin of trick and treat. Different cultures will respond. Some cultures don't have much of anything. They have other kinds of celebrations that are similar. So for example, in England, much bigger is Guy Fawkes Day, which is around November 2nd. Guy Fawkes tried to blow up Parliament at one time, and so they burn Guy Fawkes in effigy, and they go around doing all sorts of pranks and things of that sort. So they focus more on that particular festival. Halloween as such is much bigger in the United States than anywhere. In fact, it's gotten even bigger in terms of business and so forth in the United States. And it tends to be also within Irish, Celtic, and Scottish traditions more. What you have in all cultures, and this goes back even to Greeks, Romans, ancient cultures, you have the belief in the revenant. Really, whether you talk about a zombie or a vampire or even a ghost, you're talking about someone who might be able to return from the dead. And the strict zombie tradition that we know of, and that's so popular, with zombie apocalypse and all of these things, really goes into the Caribbean area. The idea that somehow you can have a person who is not really permanently dead, that can come back to life and be used as a slave and so forth. And there's some indications that the whole zombie legend has roots in pharmaceutical concerns. In other words, drugs and so forth that were used in order to drug people and to get them into this kind of state that at first looks like they're dead, then they can be revived. And so there's this fascination with the idea that somehow there is a revenant, that someone is not permanently dead, that they can come back to life. Interestingly, in Christian tradition, we talk about an afterlife, a life after death, don't we? So that means even in the Christian tradition, there's this enticement to say, well, there's more than this life. So people really do believe in this, and it goes clear back. It goes well back. Most cultures have a belief in a revenant of some kind. someone who could come back from the dead, whether it be a zombie or a vampire or whatever. Folklore are customs and beliefs that the average people believe. And they develop, they're stories that help to explain things. And when you don't have an explanation, you tend to find an explanation for it. And until there's a legitimate or a much more conclusive explanation that comes along to help solve the issue, you tend to live by those explanations that you developed. Everybody needs to explain things. And so folklore is a natural process. We have our own folklore today, in terms of creating things that we believe and think that maybe 20 years from now people will go, how could they possibly believe those things?